first, when Asus sent us the VivoBook 16X to review, I wasn't sure what to expect from this laptop. VivoBooks have had a long-standing reputation as a solid choice for professional uses. Asus has also proven that they're willing to explore innovatively with their ZenBook lineup. While the VivoBook 16X is pretty much a standard laptop, one major distinction potentially makes this device stand above a crowded field. Is there enough here to warrant a $1,200 price tag? I'm Alex from the Subnautics. Thank you so much for joining us. I just want to make a quick note too that Asus did send us this unit to review. They're not going to see this before you guys, so all our thoughts are our own. And without further ado, let's review the VivoBook 16X OLED. The first thing I want to do is distinguish exactly what we have in the studio, as there are plenty of different configurations available for purchase at varying price tags with the same product name. Asus sent us a VivoBook 16X OLED with an Intel Core i7 12th generation processor, 16GB of RAM, and 512GB of storage. There's an Intel Iris Xe GPU powering through Windows 11 Pro. Those are relatively good specs, even without the dedicated GPU for a retail price of $1,200. What potentially elevates the value of this laptop to meet that over $1K asking price is that large 16-inch OLED display that this device is named after. With a striking 4K resolution at a standard 16:10 aspect ratio, the display might very well be the nicest laptop screen I have yet to set my sights on. Asus's OLED display has their certification of True Black 600, which is a tier standard of verifying how dim or range black levels an OLED display can get. As is often the case with a lot of laptops we get sent to review, I'm not aware of the specs or the model we receive until we unbox it here at the office. I actually wasn't aware that this was a 4K OLED display at all when Lita put the box on my desk, but the minute I booted up the VivoBook and got to the desktop, I immediately recognized that there was something different here. I use a lot of laptops with gorgeous viewing experiences, but the VivoBook 16 even made me take a second to look closely at the screen. Just for reference, this laptop display has up to 600 nits of peak brightness and a 0.2 millisecond response time. While this isn't the highest number out there, it is insanely bright for daylight usage. I'm plenty impressed with the sharpness and viewing consistency of this OLED panel in just about every situation it has been in over this past month. I primarily edit photos and videos on macOS and or use various LG or HP monitors for grading when I'm not on my MacBook Pro. I have to say, Asus has done a terrific job reproducing colors to be quite accurate to the source. I sometimes find myself gravitating towards altering my settings to give my eyes a punchier painting when it comes to color reproduction, but I found a good color gamut range here that I truly enjoy working with. There's only a 60Hz refresh rate on here, so it isn't really like a gaming platform, but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy a visually stunning game on here nonetheless. But that takes us to performance, because there's enough power behind the VivoBook to handle some relatively new AAA titles at 1080p. I briefly played Final Fantasy VII Remake at 1440p resolution with 30 frames per second and kept the settings at high. It was definitely playable and even enjoyable seeing those Avalanche heroes fighting Shinra on the near bezel-less screen that this has, but I couldn't find a good playable combination of settings to push it up to 4K. That's probably a good indication of what the spec combination can actually handle in terms of gaming performance. I wouldn't buy this as a gaming laptop, that's pretty obvious, but I do find Intel's Iris Xe GPU offering in these laptops to be surprisingly capable. Asus sells a VivoBook 16X OLED with a NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3070 GPU, and that device Asus markets towards content creators. So what exactly does it leave us here with this configuration of this laptop? Well, for starters, it does the basics well. This 12th gen Core i7 processor gives the 16X plenty of backbone to handle the menial day-to-day tasks like Microsoft Office and web browsing. I was pretty happy with how it handled 4K YouTube content as well as 4K content from any of the streaming services I use. So what this laptop is fully invested in is the media experience. That really is it. This configuration is not a power user laptop by any means, and I think Asus makes that pretty clear. It does just that one thing really well. Asus wants you to keep watching stuff on the 16X. Just keep watching YouTube, Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, and whatever it is you currently use nowadays to stream media. The longer I used this laptop, the more singular its purpose became to me. Is this a great work laptop? It's pretty decent. I'll get into why I think it works well for business purposes at the end of this review. But I do a lot of typing, and while the keyboard is solid to work on, I wouldn't say it is a top-end typing experience. I've used a lot of other laptops over $1,000 that I would use as a typing tool over the 16X. Once again, that doesn't mean that it's a bad keyboard. The layout is backlit and comfortable in this large form factor, allowing for a numpad to be squished into that same surface area as the main keyboard. Like most laptops, the typing feedback is quite shallow. There's enough there to spring back for you to move on to the next key without feeling weird, but it does feel a bit hollow in a way. I was expecting a bit more of a premium feel, especially like this type of experience on a laptop north of $1,000. This is going to be a recurring theme. As far as accuracy goes, I did make frequent errors on the backspace and delete key in that area as my fingers would hit the keys on the numpad. This condensed format has its benefits and its shortcomings. I did get more comfortable with the layout over time, and I surmise many people buying this as their only machine will get acquainted quickly with this layout too, so that shouldn't be a problem in the long run. I did like how the trackpad is spacious and gracious with the surface space it allows your fingers to roam. Because Asus was able to trim down the area needed for the numpad, the trackpad location doesn't feel significantly off-center like a lot of other laptops of this size range. It's pretty close to occupying a slot right slab in the center of the body, and it looks like a laptop of a much smaller size. It just looks nicer to me, and I've never been a fan of laptops with those trackpads way off to the left because they have a large numpad, so thumbs up here. The trackpad itself is responsive and adequate for daily usage. The same goes for that little fingerprint scanner for Windows Hello on the top right. I didn't have any issues with any of that at all. Because of the tremendous amount of real estate that the 16X provides, I did find myself pinching to zoom a bit more on this laptop than I normally do in my regular usage. Having that 4K resolution also contributes to really sharp text even after zooming in. That's an unintended but really nice synergy I found. I'm definitely spoiled after years of using MacBooks and Pixelbooks, but I just find other trackpads to not feel as nice to work with. Once again, there's nothing wrong with the trackpad here on the 16X functionality-wise, but it just lacks a premium touch to it that you've grown accustomed to on excellent glass trackpads on something like the MacBooks or even the Razer Book 13. There's just a different vibe and sound around these experiences. I would say what I experienced here felt like what I've been reviewing on laptops in like the $400 to $600 range. For north of $1,000, I do think it is fair to ask for a little bit more luxury and feel. So once again, we come back to that OLED display. It's the standout feature of the 16X. Asus tries to add functionality around this by allowing the hinge to lay flat at 180 degrees. To be honest, I'm not one to usually make use of a position like this with laptops of any kind, so I'm especially confused here at what benefits this may have to a non-touch screen display like this one. Regardless, it's able to move into that position for folks who do appreciate that functionality, whatever it may be. I did find the hinge to be nice and smooth to move. There's just enough resistance when pushing and pulling it to feel as if it was well built. Hinges are a very underrated component to modern laptops, and I do actually find the one here to be quite good. It's deceptive because the shell and the entire body is made of plastic. Everything is plastic. You tap on it and it taps back at you. This laptop is hollow sounding and generic looking. Once again, for $1,200, I do expect a bit of like some premium flair in at least some aspects of the build quality. Give me an aluminum shell and a plastic bottom casing as compensation. I would have been fine with that. In a consumer technology world, illusion is a big part of what moves units. Again, this all comes back to this OLED screen. Like, this is unequivocally that illusion that Asus is banking on to move units on this configuration of the 16X. I can't even say that actual media experience-wise is above everything else on the market because visually it's elite. But the audio quality coming from the stereo bottom firing speakers leaves much to be desired. It gets loud and fills the room with noise, but that's just it. It's just noise. There's no depth and substance behind the audio emitting from the VivoBook. Like how I've been describing a lot of the other things in this review, the best word to describe the audio is that it sounds hollow coming out of this laptop. It isn't pleasant to listen to. The fan also sometimes contributes to a distracted entertainment experience. If you do attempt to play games on the VivoBook, you're definitely going to have to use headphones on because the fan kicks on pretty loud. Like even idling, the fan noise is quite noticeable. It didn't bother me too much, but there is a deceptive aura around this laptop. For something of the size that I mentioned earlier, ASUS has done a fantastic job of making it appear like a fanless laptop, like it has a smaller footprint than it looks. I say that in the physical design, it's considerably thin for a laptop of this size. So when you pop that lid up and you fire Windows 11 Pro up, it's kind of unexpected for you to hear those fans kick in because you normally don't on a fanless laptop that it kind of looks like. The VivoBook 16X is, in all honesty, a pretty generic laptop. There's a 720p webcam on top of that top bezel, and it works fine. I don't personally mind the resolution here, but if you're somebody who is constantly on Zoom, there are plenty of better webcam options on laptops out there. I do like how ASUS has this built-in privacy cover for the camera, though, that I originally mistook for a hinge lock, like those old laptops. Having it there keeps that outer frame clean of buttons and levers, so cool on the design there. There's one USB 2.0 Type A port on the left side of the frame and two more USB 3.2 Type A on the right side. Also on the right side is a USB-C port, an HDMI port, an audio jack, and a DC plug for power. I was not able to charge this through USB-C, which is a bummer. We have to carry around that square power brick in order to power up this VivoBook. I don't mind OEMs using a DC plug on their own proprietary port for power, but if there's a USB-C port on the laptop, at least use the proper USB-C port for power delivery as well, so the user can decide which route they want to go with. As for battery life, the VivoBook 16X isn't great for longevity. Just with general work use, I was able to get about 4 hours max off a full charge of continuous usage at about 75% brightness before needing to connect it to a wall outlet. Without a doubt in my mind, I see this laptop as a perfect traveling companion to a traveling business person, like somebody who answers a lot of emails, works with spreadsheets a lot in the office, and travels a whole bunch on a plane. The VivoBook looks like a workplace laptop, but offers immense media viewing potential for those long plane rides. I remember helping my father search for a laptop a couple years ago, where he also picked a VivoBook, go figure. A lot of his wants and needs in a laptop are exactly the strengths that I've highlighted on this VivoBook 16X. For him, the display viewing experience was number one factor, followed by the CPU choice after that. That's usually how they think. I think ASUS has done enough here to attract groups of buyers to the VivoBook 16X OLED. But make no mistake about it, this is absolutely a product that has only one standout feature. Everything else about this laptop is average at best. Sometimes that's all it takes to woo over potential buyers. Just one thing that is better than most of the competition out there. How much money is a large and bright 4K OLED display worth on a laptop to you? Going into this review, it wasn't worth $1,200 to me, but after having my eyes focused in on the VivoBook this past month, I might actually be reconsidering finally transitioning over to 4K displays for my own personal uses. ASUS may have literally and metaphorically opened my eyes to something I didn't know I needed. Thank you for watching this video. I'm Alex from the Hypnotics. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and leave me a comment what you think of a 4K display on a laptop like this, and I'll see you guys next time.
So the other day, I was on a Zoom call at work, and I just dropped everything I was saying, and I told them, subscribe.